Now, the American President Joe Biden will be making his very first visit to Europe since Russia invaded into Ukraine on the 24th of March. Biden will attend a NATO leaders' meeting at the military alliance's headquarters in Brussels to shore up NATO's unity as the war rages on in the eastern flank. The NATO Secretary General Jens Stoltenberg, in fact, took to Twitter, and this is what he put out on his Twitter handle. The emergency NATO summit will address Russia's invasion of Ukraine, and the alliance will reiterate some strong support for Ukraine and further strengthen NATO's deterrence and defense in Eastern Europe. Joe Biden will be in attendance for the extraordinary summit. The White House has said that his goal is to meet in person and also to assess where NATO stands at this point of time in the conflict. The White House has further added that Biden will use the trip to demonstrate Washington's iron-clad backing for its allies. Biden will also attend an EU summit in Brussels. He will be discussing Western efforts to impose the economic costs on Russia and to provide humanitarian support to those who have been affected by the violence. Now, Biden is speculated to adding stops to his European trips and meet with some of the 3 million refugees who have now fled Ukraine.
The President will travel to Brussels, Belgium later this month, where he will join an extraordinary NATO summit on March 24th to discuss ongoing deterrence and defense efforts in response to Russia's unprovoked and unjustified attack on Ukraine, as well as to reaffirm our ironclad commitment to our NATO allies. He will also join a scheduled European Council summit to discuss our shared concerns about Ukraine, including transatlantic efforts to impose economic costs on Russia, provide humanitarian support to those affected by the violence, and address other challenges related to the conflict.
NATO is worried that Russia is gearing up to carry out a chemical attack in Ukraine. The NATO chief said that the alliance remains very vigilant on that risk. A meeting of NATO defense ministers today would cover measures to reinforce security. The largest assault on a European state since 1945 has prompted fears of a wider conflict. At least 10 of NATO's biggest allies, including the United States, Britain and France, have deployed more troops, ships and warplanes to its eastern flank. More troops have been put in standby, and according to officials and diplomats, NATO is also set to tell its military commanders to draw plans for new ways to deter Russia from future military action. The plan will include more troops and missile defences in Eastern Europe. WION is now available in your country. Download the app now and get all the news on the move.